Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, it's going to be one of those real talk videos, and it's primarily aimed at young men, but I'm sure it applies to young women as well. It's for anybody who is desperate for a relationship or wants love in their life. Love can take many forms. You can find love in many places in your life. But one of the primary ways people seek this love is through romantic relationships. But people that have never been in a relationship, people who have never actually experienced what it's like, tend to have quite a skewed view of what relationships are and what they'll be like. And that's why they desire them so much. The truth is, everything in life is either a transaction or a sacrifice, You have this thing, but you give up other things in order to have it. The same goes for relationships. There are going to be certain sacrifices you're going to need to make that are probably going to be quite uncomfortable for you to make, for you to sustain and optimize your relationship. You have to take into account how your partner's going to feel about certain things you do, about certain decisions you make, about certain mistakes you're not proud of, about certain things that you've never told anybody about yourself, but you know your partner will find out about you. It takes a lot of courage to share yourself that honestly with someone else. And that's why self-love is the most important thing. If you can't love yourself, how can you love anybody else? If you can't love life, how can you love somebody else? I think romantic love is a kind of love that is pedestalized, It's idealized, it's dreamt about. People have fantasies about romantic love, and what I've found is with many girls in the past and many relationships that I've been blessed to have, for good and for bad, they've taught me a lot. And what I have learned is that the love and the relationship that I create in my mind is always better than that in reality. We tend to always look on the bright side of things in our imagination and in our fantasies, but we don't take into account the bad things. Before you get with someone, you have to actually ask yourself, what are the flaws of this person? Don't go into it looking only through rose-tinted glasses. Obviously, look for what's good in them as well, but you also need to be aware of what's bad in them. But if you're really desiring a relationship right now, if you're really dying to feel love, then I think what you need to do is you need to look within yourself at this feeling of lack that is within yourself, that is leading you to seek these external means of an inner feeling. Because oftentimes that's what it is, right? We want to be in a relationship so that we actually feel like we're desired. We want to attract someone so that we feel we are attracted. We're not thinking about them, we're only thinking about us. We're doing it for selfish purposes. We're doing it for our own ends. And yeah, that goes a bit for everybody, but a relationship is a two-way thing. There's always somebody else in the relationship that you need to consider and care for. In the past, I made that mistake far too much. There was this girl that I was once with, probably the closest relationship that I've had with a girl, the girl who I felt the closest to in the past. And in that relationship, I didn't treat her very well because I was thinking a lot about myself. And although I was there for her, it was infrequently, it was sporadically, it was on my terms, honestly, it was when I wanted something out of it. And I didn't reciprocate her love in the way that she wanted, which ended up causing her a lot of problems in the relationship. She didn't feel worthy, she didn't feel validated, she didn't feel desired. And that's what people want to feel. And I didn't make her feel like that because I was just thinking about me. And maybe she was thinking about her too. She probably was, we were young, foolish kids, but I should have thought more about her. The perfect relationship doesn't exist. Relationships always have bumps in the road, and there'll always be problems to confront and face, but that's just like life. It's like everything in life. And David Data, author of The Way of the Superior Man, famously said a really good quote that I like. He said that if you can't love your problems, you can't love life, because you're always going to have problems. So you need to actually love your problems. I think that's what Marcus Aurelius would say, the Stoic philosopher, emperor. I think he would say, as he did, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So therefore, the obstacle is the way. The obstacle is what you have to confront in your life. It is what can give you meaning and purpose and direction. It is part of your life. And as Nietzsche says, the formula for greatness is amor fati, to love your life and to treat your life as if it were to be eternally replayed and relived forever. You live this day the same way you would live this day if it was to continue for 1,000 years. And with that approach comes wisdom. But think about it, if you had 1,000 years on the planet, if you had so much time, or at least if you thought you had time, you wouldn't be rushing to try and get in a relationship, potentially one that's unhealthy and one that you actually don't want. You would actually save time, and you would actually save your energy for something that is worth pursuing. And that's usually because you're not desperate, because you already feel content within yourself. You don't pick bad options. It sharpens your vision. It sharpens your critical thinking and your ability to choose. When you actually can think about things critically and honestly, instead of, idealizing or fantasizing or romanticizing a kind of idea that you've built mostly in your mind, through imagination and not reality, then what you start to realize is the reality is a lot different to what you have imagined. And that this relationship, this loving, wholesome, innocent, pure relationship that you have imagined for yourself may be something that is unattainable. It may be something that you have to work very hard towards, and it's not just going to fall on your lap. It may be something that's going to take a lot of time to develop, a lot of time to find. But the thing is, if you really valued that thing, you'd be willing to wait. You wouldn't just take any opportunity that comes. You'd be patient, but you'd also be disciplined, because you'd know that, okay, a relationship is going to demand certain things from me. My partner is going to demand certain things from me, and I need to be ready to meet that task. Because if I'm not, I'm signing myself up for something that I'm really not ready for. And that's not only a disservice to myself, but that's a disservice to the person that I'm going in the relationship with. And so you always need to think about that. I'd say this is a really good attitude to take in regards to making any decision in life. Delay it just a little bit. Why? Because the emotions right now, they might be high. You might be under a certain impression that has caught you, that has led you down a certain path of thought. And as time passes, time's a great healer and a great changer, then your perspective can also shift dramatically in a short period of time about the same thing. And so always put things off, Don't leave things till the last moment. Don't drag things on unnecessarily, but take your time. There's no rush. Be patient. And good things come to those who are patient. But yeah, for people who are desperate for a relationship, I think they need to think about what they're actually wanting from a relationship and whether that's actually realistic. I think they also need to think about, are they doing it for selfish means? Are they doing it to gain a certain feeling within themselves, to fulfill a certain inadequacy that they already feel is present within themselves, etc.? There's many reasons why people could pursue things. It's not as simple as it seems. From one perspective, you can see it as if, this person is pursuing this because of X, Y, and Z. But then you go from another perspective and it becomes A, B, and C. And so there are many reasons, many complex reasons why people do what they do, which is why I think we're all so fascinated in psychology, and why psychology is such an interesting subject. Naught stranger than folk is a very famous saying, and I think it's true. But nonetheless, a relationship is not the be-all and end-all of your life. You can still have, I think, a happy, prosperous, and fulfilling life alone. I still think that is truly possible and achievable. But I also think that a perfect relationship is not achievable. And that's why your imagination can become your enemy, because it can present you with these illusions, false illusions about what life could be like, things that are totally unattainable. And that just leads you further off course, because obviously it's not realistic, and therefore it's not actually based in reality, and therefore you can never get it. And so ask yourself honestly and in reality, what do you want from a relationship? Are you ready for a relationship? Is a relationship really that good? Really that desirable? Or is a bad relationship undesirable? Is a bad relationship worse than being alone? I would argue yes. But is a good relationship uplifting and fulfilling? Of course. But it takes time and effort to build that. To build that with somebody you actually see as capable of building that with. You need to be very careful in your discernment in regards to who you choose as a partner. But that often misses out on people who are really desperate. And so that's why you need to be more patient. You need to engage more with your critical thinking abilities, and you need to be more honest with yourself about relationships. And you need to not blindly desire them based on your illusions of what they could be like and seeing things through rose-tinted glasses, but remind yourself of the grim and dark realities of things, of life and of relationships, how they can turn really sour and really toxic very quickly and can become more of a burden than a treasure, more of a curse than a gift. So, do you really want a relationship? Are you really ready for a relationship? And what do you want from a relationship? And is that realistic? Those are questions I would ask myself, my younger self, who was more desperate for a relationship. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.